igniting change. Oh, we have a great show for you because we have some of the most amazing people speaking about what's happening in our country right now. I am so delighted to bring up my co-host, the mighty attorney Daryl Jones, who is the chair of the board and one of the most amazing attorneys in our nation, fighting for our voting rights, fighting for our civil rights, fighting for our human rights. Hi.
Hey, Barbara, it must be Tuesday, it must be noon Eastern Standard Time because we're talking about igniting change. My goodness, Barbara, you know, it seems as though I say it every week, and every week it's true. So much happens in the 6 days between these shows, and this incredibly backward U.S. Supreme Court has done it again. My goodness, Barbara. I mean, there's so much that we need to talk about this Calais decision, the impact of it, and everything else. It's a lot. But you know what, Barbara? We're going to get through it. We're going to fight our way through and correct the decisions that were wrong, boneheaded decisions that were made by this U.S. Supreme Court, Barbara.
Well, we are blessed because we have with us one of the nation's foremost leaders who has been on top of this case. The title of our show today, everyone, is Justice Denied. Congressman Jonathan Jackson on Supreme Court devastation of the Voting Rights Act, and Damario Simmons' new book on the Tulsa battle. I can't wait to hear every word that Congressman Jonathan Jackson has to say. He represents Illinois' 1st congressional district since January 3rd of 2023. He was born in Chicago. He is the son of civil rights leaders, Reverend Jesse Jackson and Jacqueline Jackson, and the godson of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Before entering Congress, Jackson was a businessman, professor, and national spokesperson for the Rainbow Push Coalition. His activism spans decades, including involvement in international negotiations for the release of American captives and advocacy for victims of police misconduct. In Congress, he serves on the House Committees on Agriculture and Foreign Affairs as a member of several caucuses, including the Congressional Black Caucus and the Sustainable Energy and Environment Coalition. Welcome back to Igniting Change, Congressman Jackson.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Brother Daryl. Thank you for your leadership, or shall I say, Attorney Jones, my chairman. Thank you, the incomparable Barbara Arnwine, Attorney Arnwine. And I want to say a very special thank you on behalf of the Jackson family, my father, Reverend Jesse Jackson, my mother, Jacqueline Jackson. I want to say thank you for your love, your friendship, your support. While my father was here, now he's with the ancestors. You were a friend of his, not just in spirit, but in blood. You all have championed civil rights. You've kept this program going. You've educated. You've never, ever stopped. And for that, I say a very special thank you. I haven't been on your program since his passing.
Oh, my goodness. You're touching my heart so much because I loved him so much. And he was such an amazing leader. And he's a man whose legacy just lives on in so many ways throughout this nation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Always thank you to your family for the generosity that you showed to the nation by opening up the doors of the Rainbow Push headquarters for those couple of weeks to make sure that everybody had an opportunity to show their love and respect. Just thank you for South Carolina. Just thank you for everything. We wanted to talk today because the Supreme Court kind of lost its mind last week and decided that they wanted to compete with the Taney Court, which was the Dred Scott Court, for coming up with one of the worst racial decisions in our nation. But we wanted to talk to you because you've been there from the beginning. You've been on top of this case. So tell us, what was your immediate reaction upon learning of last week's disastrous Supreme Court ruling in the Louisiana versus Calais case?
An overwhelming sense of awe and betrayal. It was astonishing. Betrayal in the words. If you could grant me 1 minute just to read something that I had put together, gather my thoughts for your program. And I would say that the story of Louisiana versus Calais cannot be understood as an isolated legal dispute. It's not merely a quarrel over lines on a map, percentages in a census table, or the technical language of constitutional interpretation. It's rather a chapter in a long American narrative, one that stretches from Reconstruction to the present, from the contested election of John Willis Menard, Congressman in Louisiana, to the modern political career of Cleo Fields, Congressman from Louisiana. In that arc of history, Louisiana emerges not as an anomaly, but as a mirror, reflecting the painful clarity, contradictions, ambitions, and betrayals that define the American political democratic experiment. Louisiana speaks to America in miniature. In Louisiana today, we have the Speaker of the House, and Mr. Johnson. We have the Speaker, the Majority Whip, and Mr. Scalise. Is to confront a place where the ideals of liberty and equality have been proclaimed with conviction and undermined with equal determination. It's when we get the 15th Amendment to guarantee the right to vote, and then voter suppression begins, where the Constitution has been invoked, but as a shield for the oppressed and weapon for the exclusion, where progress has never been linear but cyclical, advancing in bursts of moral courage, only to be slowed, diverted, or reversed by entrenched resistance. So that's kind of where my mind begins on this conversation. And I want to thank you and Daryl that on that day, October 15th, 2025, you were there again, as you had been, almost like, and please accept the analogy, that my father oftentimes felt this way, not oftentimes welcomed and wanted. You were going into that, almost that sort of feeling that Moses had, where Moses kept trying to tell, where you keep telling people it's going to flood, and you're talking to yourself where you're like drunk because nobody wants to hear it anymore. Here comes Barbara. Here comes Daryl. Civil rights over. Why are you even bringing this up? You've got 62 members in the Congress. People are resting on their laurels, and there you were, alone at times, walking Capitol Hill and Rayburn and Longworth and Cannon, trying to get people's attention, needing to grab a seat, but just wearily pushing through, trying to say, we have to fight this. And many of our colleagues did not have that same level of passion and intensity. And we sat together in that Supreme Court and heard the Supreme Court do something rather unprecedented. I believe it was February or March of 25, maybe 45 days after Congressman Cleo Fields was sworn in, that a minority group in that district sued the state of Louisiana and said that they were denied equal representation and came after the 6th congressional district in Louisiana. And the Supreme Court did not make a decision that spring, decided to rehear that case. They heard one case twice in a year that had to deal with 150 years of precedent. We knew the alarm bells were going. We knew this was code red. We were in a government shutdown during that period. The Democratic caucus came back and met, had a press conference that morning to talk about the one big bill, the Medicaid cuts. And in that chamber that morning, I told my colleagues, I said, after we get through with this press conference, maybe some people can go across the street to the Supreme Court. They're hearing Louisiana versus Calais. Me, you, Congressman Cleo Fields, Daryl, Terry Sewell, and Senator Kennedy of Louisiana. He stuck his head in there for a moment, but the four of us, Mr. Jones, Ms. Hugh, Ms. Arnwine, Cleo Fields, and I, we sat there through the whole case. I showed up at the Supreme Court without a ticket. They were going to either arrest me, kick me out, or something, but whatever privileges I had of being a member, I exercised it. I didn't have a ticket, didn't know where to get a ticket, didn't have time to look for a ticket, and let that be a lesson. Sometimes you have to show up. And so you and I speak today, and Brother Jones, as witnesses. Many people could have been there, but we saw it, and there were seats available for people to sit in there. And so, yes, it's a heartbreaking. I felt betrayed by the courts, and I wish there had been a crowd so large that we couldn't have gotten into that courtroom on that day.
Amen. And I do want to point out to everybody that there were hundreds of people who showed up outside. You know, people who weren't lawyers.
Soldiers. Yes.
Yes. They came in, some of them came in by bus from Mississippi, Alabama, all over the South. To be heard. The Black Voters Matters made that possible, and TJC organizing as many people as we could in the D.C. area to turn up, and people turned out. I was shocked. They were there, and we raised all kind of sand while the court was in session to make them know that we were watching them. But I'm just grateful to you for being there. And Daryl and I, just will always, history records those who stand sentinel in the important moments. When you saw this decision, what stood out to you as you've been hearing, reading, talking with people? What has stood out for you about this decision? Because we certainly have been noticing some unique aspects of it.
What stands out to me is really, I come out of a business background, is not in the political realm. My mind first goes to the business realm. I can see all the business contracts that are going to get unwound as an intentional consequence of this, not unintentional. So the Minority Business Supplier Development Council, the MBE programs, the DBE programs. Look at what's happened on our businesses after President Trump says it's immoral, illegal, the diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. This had to deal with racial justice. This was a function, if you will, a derivative of these voting rights. Business is a privilege. Voting is a right. Now that this right has been abridged and hampered, this is going to be the immediate consequence. So I'm hearing from black businesses all across the country that don't know why their businesses are stalled and they can't get any contracts. Well, there's no enforcement, there's no compliance. If you look at the attendance at the Expo for Today's Black Women, immediately after the election with Trump and his work in attacking DEI, he went after the major law firms, the universities, and by June, the person that had expos for Today's Black Women had almost a third and a half of their revenue cut because corporation says we cannot give to your organization because you say black women. You said two words that the Trump administration has challenged, women and black. You saw the Fearless Fund. They were attacked because they said they had funds that were allocated to help an underrepresented group, black women. So the attack on black women is only going to intensify. Persons that have scholarships that assist black students are going to be challenged. So that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing blacks and businesses being shut out. Now, another point of history on this is, I had to start with Congressman John Willis Menard. Congressman Cleo Fields asked me after I first won this congressional seat, and I saw him when he first won. I was one of his major supporters then. He says, Jonathan, who was the first black elected to Congress? And I told him Congressman Rainey, Mississippi. I said that proud and boastfully, Joseph Rainey. And he says, I'll ask you again. He's very precise and meticulous. He said, who was the first elected? I said, I told you, and then I'm trying to buy time, and I'm Googling it, and I see Congressman Rainey again pop up. And he says, no, he was the first seated congressman. The first elected black to the Congress was John Willis Menard from Louisiana, but they never seated him. He got to Washington, D.C., and they said it was too soon. So in Congressman Cleo Field's office in the Rayburn building is a picture of Congressman John Willis Menard, the first elected, but he was never seated. So we have a torturous history into getting here. And after they started attacking the 15th Amendment, and then after 1896, which starts again in Louisiana on the Plessy v. Ferguson, that were equal, and then the Black Code started kicking in by 1901. From 1870 maybe to 1901, we went from black senators, governors, congresspersons, might have been 20 or 22 persons that had gotten into the Congress and into these corridors of power. By 1902, there were none. So then we went from 1902 up until 1928 before congressmen from the 1st Congressional District here in the state of Illinois, in the seat that I occupy now, before another black had been elected to the Congress. We had already been there, done that. And then because these laws, very much echoing the same pattern of this Louisiana versus Calais case, it knocked out all these representatives. So as we now have 4 or 5 blacks in the U.S. Senate, we have a black governor, we have 62 members in the House. Now you're going to see this tide begin to turn. There are 4 blacks that are Republicans that are in the Congress. None are seeking re-election in the House, so there'll be 0 black Republicans as they continue to fight to hold on to this power. There'll be 0 reputation. They were bad. Now it's going to get even worse. I'm sure the environment there was so toxic, they did not seek re-election. They wanted to do everything, run for governor, run for senator, or just simply retire. So that's what I saw. I saw my father's life work, and my father, Reverend Jesse Jackson, oftentimes describes himself to me as a long-distance runner. But now that becomes even clearer to me. He ran from the dawn to the dusk, where he saw the emergence of the civil rights legislation and the Voting Rights Act. He saw our sword and our shield in the 2nd and the 5th articles of the protection on preclearance, as well as on the remedy for maximum representation, now being dismantled systematically over 60 years. It hit me very painfully because I'm 60 years of age. The Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965. So I'm born January 7th of 1966. I am the first generation of African Americans born with equal rights. I'm the first generation. And to see 60 years later, almost to the day, that now the person that opposed Reverend Martin Luther King in life opposed him in death, but the difference is they never stopped fighting. So I would tell people, I gave a talk the other day, I said, don't forget, Reverend Martin Luther King had a dream, equality, fairness, justice for all. But don't forget that Justice Roberts had a dream too. Don't forget that Abraham Lincoln had a dream, and so did Jefferson Davis.
Right.
There have been people that have always opposed our equal access to equal rights. And so this was the fulfillment, this was the goal, this was the dream of Justice Roberts that got on that bench in 2005. He played the long game. He waited 20 years and meticulously fought every time to dismantle these rules. And now people say, well, it doesn't make a difference. Well, you don't know. On that day, when they said race doesn't matter, you don't need to consider race, and the reason we have to have honest conversations about race, on that day that this ruling came out, the legislatures in Mississippi and Louisiana and Georgia and South Carolina and Tennessee and Florida started targeting black districts on that same day they went to work.
Yes.
And here we are. So there's a fight, but I am so excited because of you and Daryl. I say this in a loving manner. You give me hope, and I hope the millions of people that are listening to you feel that same hope, because you all have never stopped fighting. And so we have the numbers on our side. Righteousness is on our side. Now we have to get out there and wake up the people, because we're going to feel this for years to come.
Yes.
And that's one of the things, Congressman, that some people don't necessarily comprehend completely. And if you could speak to it, that would be great. A lot of people look at this and they say, okay, this is affecting just Congress, just the members of Congress. They're the only ones who are going to be impacted by this. And that's a short-sighted view. Could you share with our listeners how this really is beyond just the lines of members of Congress?
Daryl, please don't tell me you know somebody like that. Please don't tell me. Oh, come on. I mean, Daryl, you all have said this history. I'll say what you've said 1,000 times, Daryl. And the Plessy versus Ferguson. Think about that case. It was a case about transportation in Louisiana. There was a black man called at that time by a racial classification called an octoroon, 1/8 Negro blood. He was very light-skinned, straight hair. He could pass for white. The African-American bought a ticket so that he could ride first class on the train. He had enough money. He bought a first-class ticket to ride in a first-class car. He was put off because he was black. And what ensued from there, it went to the courts and got all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court ruled in Plessy versus Ferguson that he did not have a right, that they had to have separate but equal. A Negro would not have been allowed, after having purchased that first-class ticket on that first-class car. Then the laws came into effect all across America. You ended up with separate rail cars, separate schools, separate graveyards, separate hospitals. That was law. They made movie theaters that have balconies where the Negroes could have another section. I mean, everything came into being. That's where the laws of segregation came from. Blacks and whites were marrying and all the other stuff after the end of the Civil War, and the laws of separation came in. And the United States Supreme Court came in from that case that originated in Louisiana, again, that said there was a ruling on what constituted being black. And it said 1/32, a drop of Negro blood makes you a Negro. Now, our people have to understand this is insanity. I agree with you. Don't convince me it's insane. I know it's insane. We're just like pointing through. And that had to do with blacks and businesses, protections and everything. So the same thing happens right now. When they say you cannot have a protected class, that you do not need a remedy for racial justice, now look out. When it comes, after it leaves the Congresses and they go to the state houses, they're going to say, why do you have an African-American Speaker of the House in your state of whatever state you're in? Why do you have your county districts? Why aren't they written at large and the few that get the most countywide? It's going to hit the state legislatures. It's going to hit the state senate. It's going to hit the counties and the local municipalities. These lawsuits are going to fly everywhere on anything that has to deal with the protection of minority rights and minority businesses. And these lawsuits are beginning to come every day. So, no, it is broad in its implication. The same thing that happened with Plessy versus Ferguson, it sounded like it was a train car and ended up going all the way to graveyards where, what do they think? We're going to get up out of the grave and go and walk over to another casket? Come on. It's insane. The same thing is now in place where people are going to use the same. Well, look at what the Justice Department is doing now. And the widow of Charlie Kirk, they're saying, don't be afraid to be a white male, and you should go to the Justice Department if you think you've been treated unfairly. So they flipped it on us. They're saying we're the ones that have been the aggressors, and we're the ones that have been unfair. We have some work to do, my brother and sister.
All right now. And, you know, what do you think? In Congress right now is what? They're in their districts, and next week everybody will be back on the Hill. Can you tell us what you hope Congress will do in response to this wicked decision?
Well, first of all, the ink is still wet. We've already started our primary season. So I've gone through my primary election for the coming election. So in the state of Louisiana, for example, some people have already done voting. It's unprecedented there, again, is that the governor has suspended the congressional voting. Well, votes have already been cast. So you're going to try to throw out votes? So there's going to be a flurry of lawsuits, and so we may be able to get through keeping some of these seats now. Some are going to be challenged. We've not had this primary vote to go on, and you've got the military, the Trump administration, that is already on the streets that has not been adequately addressed. And so he's already militarized our voting booths. And so he's already told his Department of Homeland Security and the Justice Department, look for voter rolls. He's not playing around with his ambition to try to hold on to power. The good news that I see is Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, received 77 million votes, and President Trump had received 79 million votes. 90 million people did not vote. So none of the above won. So there are numbers that are out there. In the 8 swing states, 5 million blacks did not vote. So the numbers are already out there. We're going to have to overwhelm the polls. And I think we're going to have to put everything on the agenda. The Democratic Party is going to have to speak forcefully and clearly that when we win, we have to fight to put DEI programs back in place, bigger, stronger, and strengthening them. We're going to have to fight for a reauthorization of the 14th Amendment. We're going to have to fight to get a reauthorization of the 15th Amendment, and not just strengthen and pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And this is not an issue for the African American community alone. That I'm not hearing from the Hispanic caucus. Do they think they're going to skirt and slide around this, and they're going to wait to see what the final interpretation? Everybody can't ride the African American community's back. I mean, they've all had this great rise because of us. We need to hear from the Asian community in the Congress and the caucus and the Hispanic and the progressives that why are they leaving the African American out on this conversation alone? The Democrats aren't going to be able to get gavels unless the black community is able to have its right and vote protected. So as soon as I get back to Washington, that's the conversation that I'm having.
Thank you. Thank you. Woo! There's just so much. This is just a time where everybody, you got to be on deck. This is the time where we need everyone to fight. For those of you who are in Louisiana, be aware that there's a hearing this Friday, May 8th at 9 a.m. on your redistricting for the state Senate. You want to be there. The hearing's going to be in the state Senate. You want to be there. We need everybody to show up in Louisiana to your state capital.
Ms. Barbara,
yes.
If I can add to that, why is that so important, what you're saying? Because people are looking at the congressional seats. Congress people do not draw congressional maps. Mm-hmm. State senators draw congressional maps. We need our state senators. And this vote that the Supreme Court did affects our state Senate seats next. We're going to start going after the people that draw the maps for the congressional record.
You got it. Mm-hmm. You really put it in beautiful perspective that this is as major as the successful destruction of Reconstruction, the first Reconstruction. Here they are after us again, and we got to fight back. We got more power now than we ever had. So people, we're calling on all of you everywhere in this country to fight back against this Calais decision. Congressman Jackson, we were so happy that last week 41,000 people showed up overnight on our first call to talk about the Calais case. For 41,000 people. We need to triple, double, 10 times that. Folks, we got to get out. We got to make a difference. Right, Daryl?
Absolutely, Barbara. And it's important for everyone to get involved because it's every voice that needs to be heard in this call, in this 5-alarm fire that has been started by the U.S. Supreme Court. We encourage you to go to goodtroubleliveson.org, goodtroubleliveson.org, and you can find out ways that you can get involved with the Transformative Justice Coalition, Rainbow Push, and all of our other national partners as we move forward on this goodtroubleliveson.org protest that will be occurring across the nation as we move forward. So, yeah, Congressman, if people are listening and they're saying, you know, I've been moved by this, I'm going to Google it, I'm going to learn more information about it, is there a way that the audience can get a hold of you if they have any questions for your office?
Yeah, you can reach out to me, Jonathan Jackson, Congressman Jonathan Jackson on Capitol Hill. Our office, you can reach us at 202-225-4372. That's our house office in Washington, D.C. Please feel free to give us a call or go to our website, ljackson.com. And they can also reach me at the Transformative Justice. Okay, that I'm a member, card carrying, sitting with you, for you. So let's be clear. I have a civil rights office on the Hill. And that's what we call
Yes.
it. That's what we stand by. That's what we're going to continue to fight for. And all elected officials should tell you the civil rights offices that they are affiliated with. You know, this is not about politics. This is about rights. Now, I tell you, in the 1st Congressional District here, in the southwest part of our district in Orland Park, there is a women's health clinic, Planned Parenthood. And this has everything to do with women's issues, what just happened in this Louisiana versus Calais case and what the Supreme Court is doing as they have taken away these reproductive rights that women have. There are no laws on governing men's reproductive health and any laws that are governing men's bodies. This Supreme Court is now writing laws against women's bodies and their health. And so this Planned Parenthood facility in the southwest part of our district is now seeing women from like 11 states.
Wow.
Women are having to come
to
the southwest part of Chicago to deal with reproductive health issues from Texas, from Missouri, from Kansas, from Indiana, from Tennessee, from Kentucky, Alabama, Louisiana, to get reproductive health issues because they shut down all these clinics. And so
Black women are dying. And Black women are dying.
And having sepsis. Right. So I don't know what more we can do, and I'm so in love with you all for the fight that you all have never stopped. This isn't a new fight. You all never give up, and you all saw it coming. That's the frustration I have. So that's yesterday, but yesterday we wept, and today we fight. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you. We just love you. Thank you. Thank you. We're so glad to know that you're there because leadership is everything in these moments, and organization is the answer. People, thank you. Join us in just thanking the amazing Congressman Jonathan Jackson. All I know is that we're going to do something else. We're going to do some teletown hauling. We're going to do some more because people need to hear you loudly, clearly, and we're going to make sure that happens, Congressman Jackson, because we're going to be locked arm in arm in this battle. Because we're not going to allow this court to get away with this. We're going to stop
I'm going to need you to come up to the Hill, you and Daryl, have our meeting. Let me see if I can get a room as fast as I can get a room up there. So we're going to do this. You've got civil rights that we're going to work on the outside, and we've got representatives on the inside. So we're going to do both ends. So we're in a better position today to fight than we've ever been before. So please stay encouraged. And let me tell you this here. This is the graduation season. I'm so happy. I've seen so many of my friends' children go through their matriculation, all their graduations, and such a bright group of young people, and I'm excited. But I tell you, our children are going to face a level of job discrimination they have not seen in generations. When I was graduating some 40 years ago now, the corporations knew they had an obligation to reach out to our community, to recruit. And I'm getting so many people, so many friends who've done everything right by their children, and their children, their employment prospects are very dim. Well, the good news is, if you have not taught your child to volunteer, now's a good time. They should join the Transformative Justice Network. They're going to have to understand how campaigns work. I know you've shielded them. You said this isn't political. You're going to have to understand what civics mean and how you get involved. Bring your children out. They're going to have to learn. Far too often, we've shielded these children now that are young adults, and this job market has now just turned a blind eye towards them, saying it's the market. No, it's not the market. They're going to be racially targeted, to be excluded. So we're going to have to bring our children out. And, you know, there's a rising sense of despair and a rising sense, I don't want to use the wrong word, but children are giving up on themselves. We have to let our children, it's not you. Every generation has had to make this fight. Now it's your time. So don't be discouraged. That's my message. I'm seeing too many children are feeling discouraged. No, you've done everything right. Something in society is wrong, and we have to fix it. And every one of our generations has had an obligation to fix it. So don't let your children think they've done something wrong. You're not going to get far enough going on LinkedIn, Facebook, passing out emails. You're going to have to show up. It's about justice, and you got to demand it. You're also going to have to learn not just to post and not just to comment. You have to learn to march.
Amen. Amen. And that's why John Lewis, Good Trouble Lives On, July 17th through the 19th. We'll be out there in these streets, folks, but we're going to be out there before then. We're going to be training. We're going to be protesting. We're going to be litigating. We're going to be stopping all this Calais madness as much as we can. We're going to stop it. We're going to fight it. And when we can have a Congress that can work with us, we're going to overturn this decision and make sure that our people are protected. Just thank you, Congressman Jackson. Thank you for being on our show. We're so grateful to you. Can't wait to see you on the Hill next week. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
You're the best. See you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Congressman.
All right.
Thank you, Brother Gerald.
All right. Wow, Daryl, that was powerful. Congressman Jackson was powerful. He was on fire. We are about to bring up our next guest, who you're going to be equally blown away by. Attorney Damario Solomon Simmons. He is the nation's foremost expert on restorative justice and the lead attorney for the last survivors of the 1921 Tulsa race massacre. He presents a powerful and urgent call to right the wrongs of our past for a more sustainable future. He graduated with honors from the University of Oklahoma and became the first African American to receive the Joel Jankowski Award for the most outstanding law graduate. He has been a practicing civil rights attorney for almost 20 years and currently is the managing partner of Solomon Simmons Law, the co-founder and executive director of the Justice for Greenwood Foundation and co-founder of the MVP Foundation. He has been featured on CNN, The View, Good Morning America, ABC News, ESPN, The New York Times, and more. He lives in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with his beloved wife. By his most recent book, and that's what we're going to talk about today, his amazing book, Redeem a Nation, the century-long battle to restore the soul of America. Welcome to Igniting Change, attorney Damario Solomon Simmons.
What's going on, Barbara and Daryl? Man, I've been over here like, tag me in, coach. Tag me in. I'm getting ready to go. You know, Barbara, you get me going every time I hear your voice.
I know it had to be hard because I know you got views on this Calais decision and everything.
My God.
Oh my gosh! But there's a direct line between this fight for justice for the Tulsa survivors, for the Greenwood community, and what this court just did. There's a direct tie line. I mean, people, if you can't see the through line, that this whole court in this Calais decision went into racial denial, acting like, there's really no present-day racial discrimination, and the past doesn't really count. We're not even going to allow that to be part of the jingles factor. You're going to have to show present-day smoking gun, intentional discrimination. All of that is what you've been dealing with. So tell us, sir, why did you write this book, and how did you become involved in this entire Tulsa battle?
Man, well, first of all, I'm just thanking God I got through 4 years of writing this book, Redeem a Nation, which can be picked up at redeemanation.com. It took me over 4 years because, as Barbara, you and Daryl know, while I was writing this book, I was also fighting in the courtroom, standing for the three survivors. You guys have come down and supported us. In 2021, you were on ground. In 2022, you guys came down. 2024 to the Supreme Court. So you know exactly how much I was doing while writing this book. And I wrote this book because I didn't want anyone to ever be like I was. I grew up right here in Greenwood. I went to school on Greenwood Avenue, and I never knew about the Tulsa Race Massacre. I never knew about the power and the beauty and the success of Black Wall Street. So I went to OU, playing football at the University of Oklahoma in 1997. I learned about it sitting in a classroom, learning about my own history, and I was ignited. Talking about Ignite for Change. It ignited a flame in me that has burned so strong that I want to continue to educate others and advocate for justice and reparations. And that's what I've been doing for the last almost 25 plus years. And I've been doing that, and this book is just an extension of that work. Because as you stated, there's a direct line from what has happened to our people, even beyond this last Supreme Court case, the Jim Crow, the redlining, the lynching, the enslavement, all of those things, the sharecropper. My grandmother was a sharecropper. All of those things is a direct line. And I really appreciate what the congressman was talking about, making it clear what is happening today. When he talked about Plessy versus Ferguson, I'm glad he made it clear that Mr. Plessy was a rich Negro. And so sometimes people want to talk about that we got to have, I'm all for the Black Wall Street story. I'm all for entrepreneurship. We talk about that in the book completely. But economics itself will not save us. It must be political power and community power. That is what built Greenwood in the first place, and I talk about that in the book, Redeeming Nation.
Amen. Woo! Woo! Give people a brief overview of the book, because they're going to encounter some amazing people in that book. I mean, Mother Randall and Uncle Red. There's just so many amazing people. Tell people about just an overview of what the book does, what it covers in that whole battle in your amazing life, fight for justice and reparations for Greenwood.
Well, the book covers, like you said, several main things. The book covers and discusses my 3 living survivors at the time. That was Mother Fletcher, who died last year in November at 111, Uncle Red, who died at 103 in October 2023, and our long living survivor, my good friend, Mother Leslie Benefield Randall, who is still with us at 111 years old. I'm going to be with her at the end of this month. 111 years old, she's still fighting for justice and reparations. So we talk about their story. We talk about the story of Black people in America. How was it actually created? We had to go back to the Trail of Tears when there were Black people that were enslaved and a part of the Creek, Cherokee, and other nations that came from Southeast United States to what is now called Oklahoma, which is Indian Territory. These people were the co-founders of Greenwood. I go into that history, and myself being a Black Creek Indian and my great-great-great-grandfather being a chief of the tribe that ended enslavement within the Creek Nation through the Treaty of 1866. So I'll bring everybody up. Then we talk about how was Greenwood actually created? What did it mean to live in Greenwood? What did it mean to have an attorney by the name of J.B. Stratford be the wealthiest man, a multimillionaire to own the largest African-American hotel in the history in the country at the time, the Stratford Hotel, or attorney A.J. Smith, who read the first African-American newspaper to have a weekly circulation, the Tulsa Star. We talk about that. We talk about how these Black men came together to save the life of Dick Rowland, a 19-year-old shoe shine boy who was about to be lynched. He was not a big, important landowner, a business owner in Greenwood. He was a shoe shine boy. But the community loved everybody so much that they rallied around and went downtown and saved his life, and how that was the spark that created the massacre. But I also uncovered that the massacre was not just some spontaneous event. This was something that had been pre-planned because they wanted to take the land and the wealth of Black people. And these massacres have happened all over this country. I talk about Rosewood. I talk about Wilmington. I talk about Arkansas. And I make sure that people understand the only thing that makes Tulsa unique is the size, scope, and scale of the massacre, not that the massacre happened. So we talk about all of that. We talk about the legal cases, and I was a part of with Charles Ogletree, the great Charles Ogletree, and the great Johnny Cochran in the early 2000s when I was a young lawyer, just sitting at the feet of these giants, learning how to do this work, and how I became the lead lawyer once those guys had passed on, and I was taking this fight and continuing this fight for justice for Greenwood. I talk about all of that, Barbara, in this book, Redeeming Nation, at redeemingnation.com. Go get the book right now. Learn this history. But, Barbara, what's so wonderful about what we're doing right now? This is not just a book. We're trying to launch this movement, what we call the Greenwood 11,000. There was about 11,000 Black people in Greenwood at the time of the massacre. We're trying to get 11,000 Black people by May 31st, which is the 105th anniversary of the massacre, to join with us. Don't just read this book. Take the toolkit that I'm providing for free. Make sure you have discussions with your family members, your churches, your fraternities. Come together as we need to organize. We need to organize ourselves to fight against everything that's happening right now. This book will give you the blueprint how we organize this community to get the Department of Justice to do the first ever review, to get the city of Tulsa to put together the $105 million trust, to get the city of Tulsa to, for the first time, to my knowledge, in the history of this country, there is a city holiday to commemorate a massacre, 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Remembrance Day. I'll tell you how we do that and how we have to do that as a community all over this country. Because we're going to need to fight with all our might. We have to be organized. We have to be together. And we have to fight to make sure we don't go back to enslavement and Jim Crow.
Woo-hoo!
And, Damario, you really laid a lot out there for people to go to redeemanation.com and order their copy of the book. One of the things that folks have often been talking about are all these book bans and the denial of access to African American history. And what you're writing about in the Redeem a Nation book is part of that African American history, as you indicated in your opening, that you were not taught. That this is history that would have been lost, that would be lost unless we write about it and we lay it out for future generations to know. Now, we know that you have an upcoming book signing over at Mahogany Books here in Maryland at the National Harbor. Can you tell us about the book signing, what you're anticipating? You're going to talk about the book. What's going to happen next week when you come to National Harbor at the Mahogany Books for the book signing, Damario?
Oh, yeah, I'm so excited to come to D.C. On May 13th, we'll be at Mahogany Books with my good friend, Dr. Greg Carr, my conversation partner. I'm excited to, Dr. Greg Carr. And you know what, guys? I'm excited to partner with Mahogany Books because if people don't know, we grew up together. A daughter of Greenwood. She went to school right at the same place as I went.
Wow. I didn't know that.
That's right. So this is a full circle moment that I'm doing the Greenwood model, that I am doing work with our people, a Black-owned bookstore that's from Greenwood. And we're going to talk about the book. We're going to lay out what I call the 5 Think Greenwood principles. These are the 5 principles that built Greenwood. That is number 1, community love. That's number 2 is a freedom mindset. People came to Greenwood to be free from white oppression and discrimination. That's why they came to Greenwood. Number 3 was ownership. And not just to own physical assets, that's important, but to own our own story, to own our community, to own our own spirituality, to own our own ideas. This is a part of what built Greenwood. Number 4 was wealth circulation. We circulated our wealth, which, again, that was money, but that was also knowledge and wisdom and time with each other. We circulated our wealth. And number five is willful resilience. We were willfully resilient. Everything we've gone through, every odds, obstacle, and opposition in Greenwood, we've overcome it. We've overcome the massacre. We've overcome the depression. We've overcome urban renewal. And although we have been beaten down, we're still here fighting. And those are the principles that can recreate Greenwood all over this country. In Redeem a Nation, I make it clear that Greenwood is just as much a physical location as it is a state of mind. And if we can take these 5 Think Greenwood principles, we can create the state of mind that's necessary to fight the white supremacy and the open anti-Black discrimination and bigotry that is coming, that is here right now. And we must fight with everything we have. These people have every intention to try to take us back to Plessy versus Ferguson, take us back to Jim Crow, take us back to redlining, take us back to legal segregation. That is the plan, and I'm giving a blueprint of how we can stop that plan in Redeem a Nation.
Woo-hoo. I can't wait. Oh, people. And you're going around the country. You're going to be in other locations on this book tour. Again, you want people to go to the website, right? Because we have listeners all over the country who are listening. People can go to the website to find out where you'll be, these different book tours, as the book launches next week. Next week is when the book officially launches. I'm so excited that you're here on our show. You're bringing such knowledge to all our listeners.
Well, Barbara, thank you so much. And I just want to read, yes, the book launches officially May 12th. I'll be in New York City at the Barnes & Noble at Park Slope, and Park Slope, Brooklyn, D.C. on the 13th, Oklahoma City on the 14th. Got a couple of events here, a homecoming event here on the 15th and 16th back in Tulsa. Then I'm in Chicago with John Rogers and Father Mike at the DeSable History Museum on the May 19th. Dallas with Reverend Freddie Haynes on May 20th. I'm in New Orleans with the Baldwin Bookstore on the 21st. And I'm in Atlanta with the 44th and 3rd Bookstore with my conversation partner will be Michael Harriet, the great writer Michael Harriet. And in New Orleans, my conversation partner is the brother Gary Chambers. And so I have a tremendous amount of people that's on this tour with me because we all believe we must redeem this nation. And what we mean by redeeming the nation is it's making this country do right by us, but it's also redeeming the black nation, that we're doing what we need to do for ourselves, what we can do. And the first thing we must do is we must love each other with a radical love. Our community love is so strong that we're willing to sacrifice ourselves for our brothers and sisters, because that's what they did in Greenwood. And we ultimately lost the war, and I describe this in the book, but it didn't just happen overnight. It took them 36 hours to succumb to the overwhelming majority of odds that was fighting us. But we fought for 12 hours in a stalemate. We saved the life of Dick Rowland, and we saved the lives of thousands. Those black men saved the lives of thousands of people who were able to get away while they were fighting this mob. You know, Barbara, at one time, according to the National Guard, there were 20 to 25,000 whites going berserk in Greenwood. Those are the odds that we were up against, and that's why I'm so proud to have my head up high, my chest out when I say I'm from Greenwood, because I'm from a place that we fight no matter the odds. We fight no matter the obstacles. We fight no matter the opposition, and that's what we got to have, that spirit. So if you believe in that spirit, go to RedeemerNation.com right now. I need you to go to RedeemerNation.com right now. Sign up for the Greenwood 11,000. Join me in this movement. Get this book. Give it to someone else, and let's work together to save our community.
We love you, Attorney Damario Solomon Simmons. I know you have a hard stop. You got to leave, but just thank you. I can't wait to get the book. Let's buy this book, people. Let's buy it in droves. Let's give it away for gifts. Let's make it a Juneteenth book. Let's do this. Let's be there, because the story of Tulsa is the story of all of us. Thank you so much, Attorney Damario Solomon Simmons. Your last word.
And Daryl, I just want to say again, you guys have stood with me so strongly on ground. People, everyone that's listening, I want you to know, Barbara and Daryl, they don't just talk about this. They show up. They've shown up in Tulsa and still with our community. I just want you guys to know I appreciate you. My community appreciates you. We love you. And I look forward to seeing you guys in D.C. on May 13th.
Thank you. Thank you for everything.
Absolutely.
Many blessings.
All right, love you guys. Bye-bye.
I'm not going to call you attorney. I'm not going to call you Attorney Damario Solomon Simmons. I'm going to call you author. Author.
Come on with it.
Looking forward.
Come on with it. Come on with it. I'll take it. I'll see you guys soon. Love you guys. Peace.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Wow, Daryl, what a show. Woo! Two powerful black men. Woo! That was we've had a great show today. People, if you have been listening and you're saying, oh my goodness, how do I learn more? How do I get out there and spread the word to my people? First of all, we want you to know that you should go to goodtroubleliveson.org, because we are going to be having trainings every week about, what do we say? Our saying, when black rights are under attack, what do? We stand up and we fight back. And the way we fight back in this time is through our organizing. And so we're going to be organizing, training people to get out there, register all these rocks, make sure the people who haven't been voting are voting. We're going to have more people flooding these polls. We're going to take back this democracy. We're going to take back and fight back. Right, Daryl? Take us home.
Absolutely, Barbara. Folks, we say it, and we say it again. We're so thankful to have a Damario Solomon Simmons that's out there teaching the history, writing the history for generations to come. Go to his website. Go to that site to get your copy of Redeemer Nation, RedeemerNation.com. Appreciate you, Damario Simmons, for being out there. Appreciate you, our brother Congressman Jonathan Jackson, for being out there, for being on the show today. We appreciate you, both of you. And, folks, we lay it out. May the 8th, 9 a.m., the hearing at the State Senate in Louisiana. If you can get there, be there for that hearing. Until next Tuesday, noon, Eastern Time, get off the sidewalk, get into the streets, get into some good trouble, and let's protect our vote together. Peace, everybody.
Peace.